All right, everyone, Mario Brown here, and we're going to talk about mindset today. How to master your mindset in order to succeed and finally take massive action today. That's going to be the topic of today's training. And I'm going to jump right into it without further ado because I am a strong believer in mindset and self-improvement stuff. I could give you the best tools in the world, but if you don't have the right attitude and mindset, it won't do anything for you. Now, with that being said, I want to talk real quick about how your inner world creates your outer world. Now, if you look at this tree here, you will see that this tree here has fruits, okay? And these fruits right here, you can see them right here, they basically stand for your results in life. Okay, so money, success, your relationships in life, or maybe the lack of money or lack of success, because we human beings, we usually tend not to be satisfied with the fruits in our life. But these fruits here on this tree, they, again, they stand for our results that we have in life. Now, what happens is that, we always tend to look at the fruits in our life, so the money, the success, the lack of money, relationships and things like that, and we complain about the lack of that, but we don't realize that that is not the real problem, because where did this tree come from? With these fruits, where do they come from? Exactly, they come from the roots right here. Okay, this is the foundation, this is where it comes. And when I see here the inner world creates your outer world, the fruits is what's visible in your life, your physical health, your money, things like that. That's what's visible in your life. That's the results. Now, what's invisible is the roots. You don't see them. That's your spiritual life, your mindset, your attitude, how committed you are, your goals, how driven you are. That's all mindset, and it's invisible. Now, the interesting thing is that the invisible creates the visible, and this is where most people get lost. The invisible actually creates the visible. Okay, so where we have to start working on actually is our inner game, because our inner game is the roots, and they create the fruits. And that's what the people most of the time don't get. They only focus on the results. Now, with that being said, again, the fruits are the health and the money, or a lack of that. So the interesting thing is, if you think that you're not and I'm talking a lot about money right now, because most of us live in the United States or in another Western country where in our society, it's a lot about status and money and success. So a lot of people in our society equal success or money with success. Okay, for them, being successful means to make a lot of money, have money in the bank. So if you're watching this training, most likely you also want to make more money, be more successful, grow your business and things like that. Now, the lack of money or the lack of results is never the problem. Okay, it's never ever the problem. The lack of money is not the problem. The problem is the roots. It's the invisible. That's where the actual real problem is, right here. Because if the roots are not right, if your foundation is not right, you will have a lack of results here. You will have a lack of fruits. So that's the exact reason why we have to work on our inner game, on the invisible inside of us, before we can ever have results here in the outer game. Okay, the invisible, your inner game, creates the results in your life. So if you have a lack of money, lack of success, lack of relationships and things like that, it's actually yourself that you have to work on first. Again, I can give you the best tools, the best software, the best training. If you don't have the right mindset, if you come home and you just sit in your couch, you turn on the TV for a soap opera, then I can give you the best software. You won't use it because you don't have the right mindset. It's your inner game that you have to work on first. Now, I showed you this picture to illustrate why I am so much into self-improvement and so much into mindset, because everything changed for me when I changed the way I think about success and my life. Then I started working on myself, getting into self-improvement, getting into mindset, setting goals, surrounding myself with successful people. I worked like a maniac on my inner self, on the invisible. And guess what? Yes, I received more and more fruits here in my tree of life. Better relationships with my family, with my daughters, with my mother, with my wife, more money, new businesses, new opportunities, more traveling. Just like that, I received more fruits here in my life because I was working right here on the roots, on the inner game. And that's exactly why self-improvement and mindset is so important, specifically for internet marketers, because we get so conditioned to believe in a quick fix, in make money quick, get rich quick solutions, that we think it's fast, 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 and we forget that it's the inner game that creates the results. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, or the second thing, is that it's not easy. The problem with all the sales letters is they promise you fast, quick solutions to make money, but in reality, there is no shortcut, and it's not easy. And I write sales letters myself, right, because I have to sell products. And what we get taught, I read the books about how to write copy, is to make it sound as easy as possible, to promise that it's easy and convenient and it doesn't take a lot of work and money just comes like magic. But that's not how it is, guys. You cannot buy into these sales letters or email copy or anything, video sales letters. It's not the reality, guys. There is no shortcut, and it takes hard, consistent work. And you know, one of the realities that I learned is, if success was easy, everyone would be doing it. If running an internet marketing business was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? If running a local marketing business was easy, everyone would do it. And specifically, running a successful local marketing or internet marketing business, if that was easy, every single person would do it. And it's not easy. Succeeding is not easy. Why do you think only 3% in internet marketing actually ever make $1 online, let alone really succeed? 97% of all people, in quotation mark, they fail. It's not so much about failing. I don't have a problem with failing, actually. It's that they give up and they give in, or they actually never get started. All they do basically is they buy hope. They see a new email, they see a new sales letter, you know, with big promises, and they buy into it, hoping that this will be the magic bullet that changes everything. Not understanding that at the end of the day, there's no shortcut. The only thing that's left is you, your mindset, and hard, consistent work every single day. There's not a solution. I'm sorry. If you're listening to this and you thought there's a quick fix, it doesn't exist. You know, some people, they win the lottery, okay, but what happened to them? 99% of the time, that's so interesting, they lose the money within 5 years, all their money, and they end up unhappy. Isn't that interesting? If you look at the statistics, you can look it up on Google. All of these guys, when they win millions, they lose it and they end up unhappier than before. Why? Because their inner game was not ready for the results. You give someone who's broke a couple of million, if they don't have the right mindset, they're going to waste it. They're going to give it away to the wrong people, and you know, they're going to end up even more unhappy, because often they get divorced, they have problems now with the family, everyone wants their money and things like that. So there is no real shortcut. But if once you know that, you can embrace it. You can have that mindset that you have to be working hard every single day. Okay, it's a step-by-step process, but it starts with the first step. If you adapt that mindset, if you embrace it, it's actually, it can be fun. Okay, so long story short, all these sales letters, they are crap. Forget about them. They promise you things that usually don't happen. So just keep in mind that it's hard work and consistent work, and it's necessary every single day. There is no other way around it. That's how I do it. It's how Brian does it. And you know, the other successful internet marketers, it's the same way they do it. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is your peer group. And I understand, look, we all have family. Many of us have a full-time job, but you know, there's this saying in the States where it goes a little bit like, if you hang around a trash can for too long, you're going to begin to stink. And that's so true. If you hang around the wrong people, unfortunately, they're going to bring you down to their level. That's just how it is. So, you know, this is a tough lesson, but if you have right now in your family or your circle of friends or acquaintances people who are not on track with your goals, if they keep you down and you know it, and it doesn't mean that they don't love you. Often because they love you, they want to keep you down, because they are comfortable where they are, and they want to be comfortable with the way you are. Now, if you change your goals, if you go after bigger things in life, what happens is that for them it's uncomfortable, and they don't want things to change. So they tell you that, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Maybe you should, you know, just slow down. Hey, why don't we have a couple of drinks? Why don't we just play PlayStation or whatever it is? It could be your spouse it could be, you know, sister, brother, it could be your kids, it could be friends, you know, colleagues at work, whoever it is, you have to get strict and you have to limit your time. Okay, if you imagine a table, imagine this real quick. You are standing on a table. Okay, you're standing high on a table, and then on the ground there's someone else, and you are trying to push that person up to you on the table, and the other person is trying to pull you down to where they are. I'm asking you right now, who's gonna win that match? Is it easier for you to pull someone up with a big effort to where you are, or is it easier for the other guy on the ground use his leverage and just pull you down real quick? Exactly, for the person on the ground, it's always easier to pull you down. They have more leverage. And the whole point here is, if someone is on the wrong track, if someone is not motivated or success driven, it's easy for them to get you off track if you hang around with them. While on the other hand, it's going to be very difficult for you to get a person on the right track if they don't really want to. Have you ever tried to get someone on the right track, someone who was lost or they were going down the wrong road, so to speak? It's very difficult if they don't really want to do it. But if you are right now doing something, you have something going on, and you hang around with the wrong person just for one day, it's very easy for them to get you off track. So you got to be very careful who you spend your time with. Very, very careful. And if it's your spouse, if it's people that you just can't get rid of, so to speak, okay, then at least you have to limit the time that you spend with these people. I think Ryan Tracy talked about that. There's people that deserve, 4 or 5 hours of our time every day. It's the people that we love, people that are on track with our success, people that make us better, and people that make us grow. Then there's people that only deserve like half an hour of your time. People who are, who you shouldn't hang around with too much. And then there's people who just deserve 2 minutes of your time because they're negative, maybe they're bad people, maybe they're good people, but they just have this complaining and blaming mindset. All they do all day is blame and complain, and they blame the economy and what it is, and then they put these seeds in your mind. So limit access to people who are not good for you and for your goals and your family and things like that. And the next thing that I want to talk about is that you also have to know your numbers. And if you look right here on the 95-5% rule, what I mean by that is, if you look, you can look at any industry, you can look at any sport, and a lot of people talk about the 80-20 rule. I want to talk about the 95-5 rule. What that means is, if you look at the huge millions and millions of people in the United States who want to, be professional basketball players, they start in high school. Okay, you have millions and millions of high school players, then only a small percentage of these guys ever make it to college to play college basketball. Now, out of that pool, just a tiny percentage ever makes it to the NBA. And then in the NBA, still, you have like 5% of people who are really good. You have like 1% who are like total superstars, like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, these guys. And then you have like 80%, 80 to 95% who are like average. And you can apply this number to any industry. If you are into, let's say, for example, local marketing, and you go after dentists, you will learn that there's 5%, 1 to 5%, who absolutely crush it in your local market. With dentists, they know what they're doing, they're good, they have marketing in place, and things like that. Then there's the other 80% who are average. They, they just get by, so to speak. And then you have like 10, 15% who do okay. So you have always like average and people who don't do so great. You have like stars and you have superstars. And you want to be in the top 5%. Now, what that means, though, is for you to be in the top 5% is to stay away from the other crowd. The other 95%, the other 20%, you want to stay away and you want to surround yourself with the top 5%. That's the only way. And specifically the percentage of people who are negative and blaming, we've talked about that before, you have to stay away from these people. I'm repeating myself here because I really want to point it out. It makes a big difference. When I grew up in Germany, I grew up with my buddies there, and I love them. They're my friends. But every year when I go to Germany, after a couple of weeks, I want to come back to the States and to my environment that I have set up for success. Because my friends in Germany, they do what they do, but they are not success driven. Some of them are on the wrong track. And when I hang out with them for too long, they get me off my track. So I have to limit my time with them. That doesn't mean that I don't love them. They're still my friends, my buddies. I grew up with them. I want to spend time with them. But I have to limit that time. There's time to hang out with them, and then there's time where I have to be on track, work on my goals, and achieve what I want to achieve so I can live the lifestyle that I want to have. So long story short, please be aware, think about the 10 people that you spend the most time with in your life, and think about if they're good for you or if they're not good for you. And if they're not good for you, please limit access to them. Or at least get, if it's someone in your close circle of family, at least get time in an office or in a room where you can close the door and tell them, hey guys, listen, I love you guys, but I need right now 2 hours to work on something, and I cannot be interrupted. At least block your time 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, however much you can get, where you can be for yourself and you can work on your life and your career and your achievements. That's the big tip that I want to give you when it comes to your peer groups. It's so critical that you surround yourself with people who have the same goals that you have. Now, the other thing is that you have to have a strong reason why. And I believe personally that money is not enough. Now, money is money is important, and money, pays for the lifestyle that you want to live. It solves a lot of problems. But I learned something in the last 4 years, and that thing is that if it's only money, like only money and nothing else behind it, it will only motivate you for so long. Because how does it help you if you have, 50,000 or 100,000 or whatever it is, a million in the bank, and it just sits there? It's going to give you a little bit of peace of mind. But besides that, that's not really what you want. The million in the bank. Okay, what you really want is what you can do with that money. It's the traveling that you can do, sending your kids to a great college, buying the car or the house that you always wanted, living that lifestyle that you want, helping your family, helping your loved ones, whatever it is that drives you. That's what you really want. It's what the money can do for you. So whatever it is that your reason why is, you have to find it, you have to think about it, and that's what you need to drive you. Now, don't get me wrong, money is important, it's critical. If you meet someone who tells you, hey, money is not important, 99% of the time, I guarantee this person is broke. If you have the mindset that money is not important, or it's not that important, then you will never have a lot of money. And look, if you would tell your spouse, you know what, honey, actually to me you are not that important, would your spouse stick around for too long? No, of course not. If you think a motorcycle is not that important, will you ever have a motorcycle? No. If you think, let's say, traveling to Egypt, I'm just making this up, is not that important, will you go to Egypt? No. If you think money is not that important, will you ever have a lot of money? No. So that's another mindset thing that you have to keep in mind. Money is absolutely critical, and you have to have the right mindset. So tell yourself that money is great. Rich people, you should start admiring them. If you have anything subconsciously, that any belief in your mind that, because when I grew up, I didn't like rich people because my mother always had that. We never had a lot of money, so I resented rich people. But the problem is, if that's in your mind, if you resent rich people or money, you will never have a lot of it. That's just a reality. So what can you do about it? Start admiring people, rich people. When you see them, when they have a nice car in your mind, start admiring them and give them some credit and respect for what they have achieved, and get inspired instead of resenting it. Tell yourself that money is good, and think about what the money can do. The more money you make, the more you can help, the more you can give to charity, the more change you can make in the world. If you are broke, you cannot help anybody. Okay, on a higher level. You can still invest your time, which is beautiful. But if you want to take it to the next level where you can, make the world, so to speak, a better place, the more money you have, the more you can donate, the more you can give to charity, and the more you can help. So whatever it is for you personally that, to change your mindset about money, do it and think about it in a positive way. Now, money alone, though, is not enough. In the beginning, it's a great driving force, especially if you come from a situation where you're uncomfortable. When you have, let's say you have to pay off debt or something like that, then money can be a great driving force. But once you reach that level that you had, what's next? Once you hit that number, once you paid off your debt, then the motivation is gone. So you have to go a little bit deeper, and you have to find your reason why. For me personally, it's the way I grew up, with my mother being addicted to drugs. She always had debt. She still has that now. So ever since I can remember, she had that problem. My wife has family in Ecuador, and I have actually, my dad lives in North Carolina. They struggle as well. So these are a couple of the reasons why, stuff that drives me to work hard, and for my kids, I want to make sure that they're going to have a great college education and they're going to be able to have a good lifestyle as well. So these are reasons that can drive me, where I wake up in the morning and I think, wow, I want to help my family in Ecuador. I want to help my family in Germany, in North Carolina. I want to, guarantee, so to speak, a great future, at least financially, for my kids, so they don't have to worry so much about money. Things like that, they drive you. That's a real reason why that can keep you driven, okay? That can give you that desire to grow and to work on your goals. Once you have that, and how do you find that? It's really simple. Just sit down, take an hour out of your busy day and think about, why do I want to make all this money? Why do I want to start an internet marketing business? Why do I really want to create an offline marketing business? It's not just to make money. The real reason, what's the real why? And once you find that, ask yourself that, write down the question on a paper and just write answers to it. And once you find out why you really want to go for it, then you have something that drives you. Once you have that, the reason why, the next step that you want to do is you want to set goals and create your perfect day. Now, setting goals, for about 3 years after I learned about self-improvement, I ignored it. Because on each book that I buy and each audiobook about self-improvement, they say set goals. But for some reason, I always ignored it, which was totally stupid, until I ended up at the Frank Kern event, and he had us write down the goals and he had us do the perfect day exercise, which completely changed my life. Actually, at the last live event, I shared what I wrote down back then. I'm just going to give you the short version right now, okay? About 4 years ago at the Frank Kern event, he asked us, how do you picture your perfect day? And then you have to take 1 hour, a sheet of paper, and you have to write down your perfect day in detail. What type of house, what type of relationships, what type, how many rooms, how many bedrooms, swimming pool, whatever it is that you want to have in your perfect day. How do you picture your relationships? How do you picture work? And how many employees do you want to have, and all of that stuff, how much revenue and all that stuff. So I wrote it down for 1 hour, and I wrote down that I want to make, at that time, my big goal was to make $10,000 per month. I wanted to help struggling internet marketers to succeed. That was my work goal. And I wanted to live on the beach with pool and jacuzzi and things like that. And sure enough, 1 year later, and it's incredible because I didn't realize it until I found my perfect day again. 1 year later, my perfect day became reality. It doesn't always happen exactly as you wrote it down, but it became reality. I was making almost 10K per month. I didn't reach it like consistently, but every other month, so to speak. I was living on the beach. I didn't have my own house, but the cool thing is, in Miami, I was living on the beach in a high-rise building, just paying rent. And that high-rise building came with pool, jacuzzi, gym, and the barbecue area right on the beach. And I was helping struggling internet marketers because I was teaching them how to succeed with article marketing and how to succeed launching products. So everything that I wrote down became reality. Not exactly in the form I wrote down, but it helped. So last year I wrote down again my perfect day, now that I need new goals. And the long story short, guys, is sit down, think about what it is that you want to achieve, write down your goals for your personal life, for business, and for your health. That's the 3 areas that are important to people. It's health, wealth, and happiness. And happiness for most people means having great relationships with friends and family. Health, wealth, and happiness, which equals relationships. So that's the 3 areas where you want to think about your goals and then create your perfect day, and you will be surprised what happened. Next up is passion is the ultimate edge. What do I mean? There's a discussion going on right now. Some people say you should pick something that you're passionate about and that you love, and then money comes by itself. And others say that's total BS. Once you start making money, even if you don't love it, you're going to get passionate about it. And I think there's truth to both of these statements, but I tell you what, I believe passion and loving what you do is the ultimate edge. Because, and I talked about that before, if you start a project, in my opinion, okay, and the only reason why you do it is to make money, and you compete with someone who's freaking passionate about it, okay, they wake up in the morning and they don't want to do anything else but that. And that's their drive, and it's their passion, and they love it, and it comes easy to them, and they work like crazy. And your only motivation is to make money. They're gonna crush you all day. They're gonna outwork you, out hustle you, and outsmart you. You know, if you go to my local area and let's say we do local marketing and we go, let's say selling SEO, and I'm passionate about it, and I love SEO because I know it can help clients to find new prospects, and I love it, and I'm passionate, and I read it every day, and that's exactly what I want to do, and you get into SEO just to make a little bit of money, I'm going to crush you all day. Why? Because it's my passion. It comes to me easily. I love it, and I'm going to work on it all day, all year, every year, all day long. So that's why I believe it is important to pick something that you're passionate about, something that comes easy to you, something that excites you, because that way you're going to last. Money alone won't last. If you have a passion behind it, you're going to work on it for years and years to come, and eventually you're going to succeed, because that's how success works. It's step by step, okay, but eventually you're going to succeed. So that's why I believe, yes, it is the right decision to pick something that you actually love and that you're passionate about it. So for me and Brian, for example, recently I made the decision that I want to teach more about teach you more about how to create a successful online marketing business, because that's what I'm passionate about. While he's going to focus on creating a successful local marketing business, teaching you how to do that. I've done that before too, and I still have a couple of clients, but it's not my big passion. This right now, what I'm teaching you right now, self-improvement, mindset, marketing, bonding with people, that's my passion. It comes to me easily. So if anyone competes with me on that, they're going to have a hard time, because I love this stuff. So next up, excuses. All right, and we all make excuses. I do make excuses. I'm not perfect, but the trick is to work on it. And some of the excuses that we hear in any area is, I don't have the time, I'm too old, I'm too young, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge, the economy is down, whatever it is. It's my past, the way I grew up, my parents. Look, you don't want to blame, and you don't want to complain, and you don't want to justify. Because the more you blame and the more you complain, the more of that crap you attract. And what I mean with that is, if you complain about how bad the economy is, or how little money you have, or how things are going wrong, you are focusing on what's going wrong in your life right now. And what you focus on expands. It's really simple. If you look at the areas in your life right now, health, wealth, and happiness, your children, relationships, some of these areas not going to be too great, and some going to be good. Maybe you're making great money right now. Why? Because that's what you focus on. That's where you focus your time on. What you focus on expands. Maybe you're in great shape. Okay, maybe you're in great shape because you work out a lot. What does it mean? You focus on your physical health. Okay, this is where you focus and where you focus on, that expands. Maybe you have a great relationship with your spouse or with your kids, and that's most likely because you focus your time on that. It's important to you. Maybe you have little money and lack of money. Why? Because you weren't focusing on it, or you were focusing on the wrong things. Maybe you're not in great physical shape. Why? Because you didn't put your focus on there. So what you focus on expands. Now when you blame the economy, or you blame your spouse or your past or your parents, you are focusing on what's wrong in your life. When you complain about things, you're focusing on what's wrong. So what you focus on expands. If you focus on crap, you get more crap. You basically, the more you complain and blame, you are turning into a huge crap magnet, attracting more and more blame and complaint into your life. More bad things. So that's why I'm telling you, try not to complain and try not to blame. If you want to go for a challenge for the next 7 days, don't complain, don't blame, and you will see how your life changes. Okay, because you're going to stop attracting more crap into your life. Change your focus to what you want in life. Change your focus on what you have right now, what you're happy about, what it is, your vision, the things that are going right, and you're going to attract more of that stuff into your life. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is your story. Okay, we all have stories in our mind. Like, for example, for me, when I grew up, my mother, she was always addicted to drugs, to heroin, and I grew up without my dad. So my story that I always told myself is that because of how I grew up and because of my mother, I do, this and this and this wrong. or I can't achieve this or this because of how I grew up. That was my story in my mind. But the more I learned about self-improvement, I understood that you can change your story actually. You don't have to live with your story that you made up in your mind. Your past doesn't equal your future. Okay, just because I did certain things in my past wrong, it doesn't mean that I have to do them wrong in the future. You can change your story. Okay, so if you have a story in your mind of why you can't succeed, or why the gurus suck, or why marketing doesn't work, or why you don't have enough money, change that story. It's just in your mind. It's something that you tell yourself, and we get trapped in the story that we tell ourselves every day. And you really, to wrap this up, you got to be comfortable. You got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that starts by changing your story. If you were focusing on blaming and complaining, you have to change your focus. And that's going to be uncomfortable for you because you're not used to it. Changing your story is going to be uncomfortable to you. Limiting time for people that, especially if it's friends and family that are not good for you, that's going to be very, very uncomfortable for you. Changing the way you work, getting more productive is going to be very, very uncomfortable, but you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I love that saying because it's so true. Look at this picture right here. This is your comfort zone. This is where people want to stay. People want to stay where they're comfortable. Why? Because it's easy and it's comfortable, okay? That's what we got used to. But the magic is happening outside of your comfort zone. And the more you can expand your vision and your goals and your ideas, the more successful you're going to be. So this picture here actually really embodies what I'm trying to tell you here. There's your comfort zone, and then there's this other area where all the magic is happening, where the success is happening, the money, the relationships, the health, the wealth, these things. But it's not going to happen if you keep doing what you've been doing. If you just keep doing what you've been doing, guys, for the last couple of weeks and years and months, I got to ask you, how well has that been working for you so far? If you're not happy or satisfied with that, then you can't keep doing what you're doing. And if you remember the tree that I showed you in the beginning, it starts by working on your inner side, on the invisible, to create the visible. So you have to change your mindset, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but then over time you're going to get better and better at it. And that actually leads me to, being uncomfortable leads me to how you're going to view problems in the future. Look, problems is something good. And, if I'm trying to be successful, I'm getting into self-improvement the more and more I can, but you know what? I get problems every single day. But I understand that problems just means a challenge that helps me to grow. Okay, what you want to look for, look guys, we don't want to, I don't try to avoid problems. No one should try to avoid problems because that's life. Life is throwing problems at you all day, every day. What you want to look for is a higher quality of problems. Now, what do I mean by that? Look, when I got started with internet marketing, I had no clue. I was a newbie, right? So I had problems like, how in the world do I set up a PayPal account? How in the world do I use Aweber or WordPress? I mean, I had zero clue whatsoever. These were my type of problems. Now, how do you get a higher quality of problems? I tell you how. You learn, you study, and you work like a maniac. So I tried to figure out, I asked people on the Warrior Forum for help, and somehow, some way, after a couple of weeks, I managed to get my first WSO, my first product online. And then over time, I mastered using Aweber on autoresponder. I mastered how to set up PayPal. But now I had other problems, because now that I mastered PayPal and Aweber, I had to figure out how in the world do I bond with my list, with my customer base? How do I set up a merchant account? Now I had a higher quality of problem. Okay? You understand where I'm going with this? Once I mastered the merchant account and how to bond with my people, then once money was coming in, I had new problems. Oh wow, I have money coming in. Now I have to pay taxes. I have to incorporate. How do I do that? Do I need a lawyer? How do I structure my business? I had a higher quality of problems. Once I mastered that, I increased my goals. I wanted to have a bigger customer database. I wanted, once I incorporated, I wanted to start getting a team on board, people who can help me, but how do you manage them? So just like that, I again received a higher quality of problems. So the goal is not to avoid problems, but it is to get a higher quality of problems, okay, to solve them and then to get new, bigger, better problems. Because the bigger your problems, the more you grow. So I'm just trying to change your mindset, your point of view when things don't go right, when problems show up, and they will every day, especially if you want to, start a business. Then see it in a positive light and actually realize that by solving them, now you move just onto a high quality of problems, which means you're growing and your business is growing and your life is growing. And the other one I want to talk about is you have to grow bigger than your problems. And what do I mean with that? Look, there's let's talk about a scale from 1 to 10. Okay, 1 is the lowest problem and 10 is a big problem. So if you have a level 4 problem, but you are a level 1 person, do you have a big problem or a small problem? You have a big problem, right? Because you're a level 1 person, but you have a level 4 problem. So you have to actually grow bigger than your problem. You have to become a level 5 person to solve that problem. And the great thing is, now you just grew. Because to get to a level 5 person, you have to set goals, learn more, study something, and that's how you grow. Okay, so you want to outgrow your problems. Let's say you have a level 4 problem, but you move from a level 1 to a level 10 person. So is it now a big problem or small problem? Exactly, it's a small problem because you grew as a person. And this is how you have to think about problems. If there's something right now bothering you in your life, you have a problem, you have to grow as a person. The problem is not the problem, it's you. Talking about the tree, it's you. You have to work on yourself, grow bigger, solve it, study whatever you have to study, figure it out in whatever way it is that you have to figure it out, but now you just grew. You following me here? So make sure that you outgrow your problems, okay? This is so critical. And keep in mind, problems are great and failing is great. It means that you're growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Look at nature. If a flower is not growing, it's dying. If you are not growing, you are dying, okay? You want to keep growing. That way you have something to look forward to. That way you grow as a person and life is not boring. You always want to have some challenges in life, okay? But don't go too crazy. There has to be challenges that can be achievable. But if you have problems, that's good, you are growing. You just have to get to it and solve them, get a higher quality of problem, and before you know, you're going to be, living the life that you were always dreaming about. And then, now that we talked all about that, of course, you have to take action. So the first step is you have to take massive, imperfect action. When I say imperfect, what do I mean? It's really simple. There's too many perfectionists out there, okay, and you do not want to be a perfectionist. You have to take imperfect action. What I mean by that is when I created my first product, it was not perfect at all. It was just good enough. But you know what? Today, good is good enough. You have to get going. You have to get momentum. You have to take some action, get some results, and then you can adapt according to the feedback that you get. So when I create a website or a new business or a new product or whatever it is, when I plan a webinar, it's never perfect because there is no perfect. I always create it that it's good enough. And then according to the feedback that I get, I can adjust it and make it as good as I can. So the secret is to take imperfect action, because if you wait for the day that something is perfect, or if you wait for the day that you are ready or your product is ready, it will never come, guys. And if you tell yourself tomorrow, no, tomorrow never comes. It's now or never, period. You either do it now, you take action now, imperfect action, or it's not going to happen. That's just a reality. That's something that I have to live with every day as well. I'm not perfect. I struggle with all these things that I'm talking about here. I struggle with them as well, but I try to work on them every day to improve. Okay, I'm far away from the level where I want to be in my life right now because I have high challenging goals, but I know that if I work on it every day, step by step, I'm going to get closer and closer to them. So take massive imperfect action. There's only either you have a result or you have a story, and that's an excuse. Okay, and let's say the result that we want, okay, now on this webinar, let's say the result is you want to be rich, for example. So the result is being rich. Everything else that you're telling me is just a story. Unless you have that result, everything else is just a story that you're telling me. If the result is to be successful, then that's it. Everything else is just a story. And I'm getting tired of stories, guys. If your goal is to be more productive, to start a business, to launch your first product, to get your first client, whatever it is, then take massive imperfect action and get some kind of result. Because if you take imperfect action, you can show me, hey, look, Mario, I did this, I did that. Or you can show it to yourself. You have some kind of result. Even if it's not great, then you just have to change your approach. But if you don't take any action, all you have for me is a story, a stupid excuse that you made up. Oh, you know what, Mario, I got busy. Oh, you know what, I received that call. Oh, you know what, I got sick. Or, you know, whatever it is that people come up with, it's just a story. So it's either you have a result or you have a story. And, you know, we're all getting tired of stories. So take imperfect action, get some results, and you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. Because once you see results coming in, you just tweak them, adjust them, and you are on your way. And, you know, don't try to be a perfectionist, because, look, if you, this is so interesting. To get something, to get as close as 95% to something, you know, to mastering something, or let's say 90 to 95%, takes a certain amount of time. So let's say you want to get 80% fluent, or let's say 90% fluent with Spanish. Okay, I was in Ecuador, I learned Spanish. After like 7 to 8 months, I was okay, you know, somewhat fluent talking Spanish, but it was good enough for me because I could make conversation, right? Now, if you want to be perfect in Spanish, it takes 10 years. 10 years. Now, would you rather invest 1 year to learn Spanish and be good enough, and so you can have conversations, or do you want to be perfect and invest freaking 10 years to master every little word and every rule of grammar? Exactly. Of course, you just want to invest 1 year. So don't try to make everything perfect. If you try to make something too perfect, it's never going to happen. It takes too much time, too much effort, and there is no perfect. So make it good enough. Make it so good that you feel great about it, that you can put something out there and then adjust it according to the feedback that you get from people. All right, I hope that works for you. Some of the rituals that I do, you know, to stay on track is basically, you know, on a daily basis, I start the morning and the evening with something positive, okay? And often it's self-improvement, or I try to watch an inspirational movie. So how does that in reality look? So, you know, there's science behind it, but I can prove it not just with science, that when, you know, whatever you do before you go, right away before you go to bed, whatever you do right away before you go to bed, it's going to stick with you in your subconscious. Your subconscious is going to work on it all night long, and I can prove it to you. And, you know, besides the science that is out there to prove that, in my opinion, when I, for example, when I watch a scary movie or an action movie with a lot of shooting and people getting killed and something like that, right before I go to bed, often I catch myself waking up, or, you know, in the night or in the morning, remembering that I was dreaming about something about, you know, war or action or things like that. So my subconscious was still working on that movie that I watched just before I went to bed. So if you watch something about, you know, the bad economy, if you watch, you know, if you read something about people complaining about something negative, if you watch the news before you go to bed, which is like the worst, and you hear about people getting murdered and rape and all that stuff, and you go then to sleep, your subconscious is going to work on that all night long, and then when you wake up, you still have it there. So what I make sure is that before I go to bed, right away, okay, just the 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes before I go to bed, whatever it is, it has to be something positive. It could be a good self-improvement book. It could be an inspirational movie. It could just be a 5-minute YouTube video. Whatever it is, I want to go to bed with something positive. Okay, and then when I wake up in the morning, it's basically the same thing.
What's up?
Okay, after I work out with my wife, okay, we do a workout, usually at home, or we go to the gym, and then when we stretch, I put in a self-improvement DVD, or on my TV, I just jump on Google, and, you know, we put in a YouTube video, and we're going to listen to something positive while we do the stretching. Why do we do that? To set the tone for the rest of the day. If you start your day reading the newspaper or the news about rape and people getting killed and catastrophes and how bad the economy is, guess what? You're going to be with that all day long. But if you start the day with something positive, self-improvement, something inspirational, it's going to stick with you all day, and you're going to be much more relaxed. So that's just 2 things that I do on a daily basis. And then in general, I'm really into self-improvement, and I started with that about 3 years ago. And if I look right now at the YouTube videos that I recorded 3 years ago and I compare them to now, when I'm on stage, or if I do videos, a huge difference. It's a different person. If I look at the videos 3 years ago that I did, I looked so shy, I wasn't even able really to look in the camera, my body language, everything was very different. Now that I study self-improvement and, you know, how to get rid of limiting beliefs, how to be more self-confident, things like that, your attitude, my whole demeanor changed. So live events, audios, videos, everything that I can get, I consume it. One thing that I like is audible.com, and that just means you can download audiobooks at a very low price. And the cool thing with audible.com is that you can download that to anything. You can download it to your iPad, to your phone, and to any medium. So now when I go to the doctor or any place where I have to wait in line, I just, you know, use my iPhone, open the Audible app, and I can listen to self-improvement audios. And at the same time, I have my Kindle app on my iPhone, so I can just open a Kindle book and read about business, marketing, self-improvement, and things like that. So long story short, when I drive in my car or wherever, I always have something inspirational close by so that I stay on the right track and I keep a positive mindset. So that's, you know, and I do that on a daily basis. I mean, you can ask Brian, my wife, I do that daily. Self-improvement is a big part of my life. And like I said, that's, you know, if I don't do it during the day, at least I have to have it to be the first thing in the morning and the last thing before I go to bed. Then sport and healthy food, yes, that's something I'm also into. And why? It's pretty simple. I have high goals, and how in the world can I achieve them if I put, you know, bad stuff into my body? So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like perfect. I'm, you know, eating all day salad, but I try to drink enough water, get enough veggies. You know, I drink a lot of juices. I work out basically 6 days every week. And I'm just trying to stay in shape and keep, you know, not just my body, but also my body, not just my mind, but also my body in a state where I can actually achieve on a high level. And, you know, I cannot expect to get great results and work hard and consistently if I don't fuel my body. If I wake up and all day I'm going to be tired because I don't get enough sleep, because I don't get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, and I feed my body with junk food all day, then I can't be surprised if, you know, at 8 p.m. I get tired and I'm too tired to create a new product or to create a new marketing campaign or to study the marketing gurus out there so I can learn more about marketing. So to stay awake and, you know, just aware and in shape, that's some of the things that I do. And another thing that I try to do every week is I revisit my goals because, hey, I'm just a human being. I have times where I'm not as motivated and not as inspired. I have problems coming up. You know, everyone has problems. I mean, like I told you guys, it's actually a good thing. But there's moments also for me where things are don't going the way I want them to go. And usually in these times, I have to take a step back from the business and, you know, grab my goals and grab my vision board or whatever it is and just take like 1 or 2 days time out or just 1 hour or 2 hours and revisit, why am I in this game? Why am I actually trying to have this huge business? Why am I trying to create a multi-million-dollar business? Why do I want to make all this money? What's the real reason why? Because right now I don't feel motivated. I have to read about, you know, my family in Ecuador, my father in the States struggling, my mother in Germany. Who do I want to help? Which charity I want to give to? Which foster home do I want to support? And then when I read about that stuff, it helps me to find my reason why again, and I get back on track. So that's a couple of things, guys, that I do on a daily basis. And then last but not least, but actually the most important one, is to have an accountability partner. You know, and I need one all the time. Look, it's interesting, you know, to give you a real world example. When I work out and I put the DVD into the DVD player, and after that I stretch or something like that or do some sit-ups, I do like a little bit, you know. But if I put a DVD inside and it's all about sit-ups and they push you for like half an hour, it pushes you to reach that next level. So if you can invest into a coach, that's actually the best thing I can recommend. And if you don't have the budget for a coach, at least get an accountability partner. You have to have someone holding you accountable. If you don't have that, I can tell you, and I can only speak from my own experience, if I don't have someone to hold me accountable, I get less results, and big time. Sometimes I, you know, waste my time on YouTube, on NBA.com. I'm a basketball fan, on Facebook, and I just straight up waste my time. And if I don't have someone to hold me accountable, you know, before I know the day's over, and I ask myself, holy crap, you know, what did I do all day? where did this day go? I just wasted my time and I don't know even why. So that's why you have to find someone, maybe in, I'm sure you're part of some communities, maybe the Warrior Forum or whatever it is, any community. You think about your friends and acquaintances, someone who you could talk to 10 minutes every day, maybe 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, and you just tell them what are the 3 things that you want to achieve today, or the 3 tasks that will be the most impactful for your business. And then in the evening when you guys talk again, you report back and tell them how it went. And just that little action can change your life, having someone to hold you accountable. For example, I had Costas for a long time being my accountability partner. So we talked at 9 o'clock in the morning and then again at 1 p.m. And I would tell him the 3 things, he would tell me the 3 things, and then at 1, you catch up. And just subconsciously knowing that someone is going to ask me in 4 hours, hey, what did you actually do? What did you achieve? Pushed me to achieve the things and to work on things. Sometimes I did it last minute, but you know what? It doesn't matter. As long as you get it done, better late than never, right? So you have to have someone to hold you accountable. If it's a coach that you pay for, it's even better because then you appreciate it more because you're paying for it. So it's even more likely that you take action. If you don't have the budget, grab a friend, a family member, or anyone, an acquaintance, and start the accountability. If not, it's not going to happen, guys. I mean, that's at least true for me. Maybe you're different, but I'm telling you, you want to get an accountability partner. Now with that, I'm going to wrap it up, okay? And I'm going to click here through it. Keep in mind the daily rituals we talked about, all right? Then the action, you want to take massive imperfect action, okay? And you have to change your story. You want to get to a higher quality of problems and you want to outgrow them. If you have a level 4 problem, you have to become a level 5 person, and then you're going to have it handled, okay? Once you're a level 10 person, level 4 problem is going to be tiny, 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 and you're not going to have a problem with them anymore. And you want to get out of your comfort zone. You can see your comfort zone here, and you can see where all the magic happens, so you have to get out of your comfort zone. Also keep in mind about who your environment is, who your peer group is, and make sure that you pick people who can help you grow. If you play chess or any sport, you will only get better if you play against people who are better than you. If I go to an event or seminar, I always try to be the most stupid people in the room. If you're in a room and you're the smartest person, you're in the wrong room. You want to be in a room with people who are smarter than you, so they can help you grow and you get actually better. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys. These are the things that I'm really, that come from my heart that can change your life. And thank you so much for watching this webinar.